Oh, you can smell the shit from 5 miles away.
Hey, everybody, welcome to our podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Karen.
And I am Mr. Blahg.
And this is Game of Microphones, episode 10. Woo. So how are you guys doing?
Doing very well.
Doing well now.
Getting things up and running?
Yeah, after that, I'll just jump right to it. And I did say I wasn't going to say this, but I'll say it now. After that last scene of last night's episode, I didn't want to do this one.
Yeah,
God
I
damn
agree.
it, why couldn't have been Grace doing this?
Well,
or David,
yeah, because I felt like it was a great episode, and then that sort of was a super downer ending. Like, I kind of just forgot everything else that happened this episode.
Yeah. Well, what kind of bothers me with it, look, the subject matter, of course, bothers me. However, what's bugging me the most about it is now that is all anybody is talking about in what was a generally very good episode. I thought we had a lot of things that were good and meaty and wonderful that we're going to certainly talk about here. Yet all of the discussion right now is about that end, and justifiably so.
I think we should just talk about that for the whole podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I was actually going to, let's just get right into our top 5 since we're already starting talking about the episode. So this is our top 5 highlights of Game of Thrones, season 5, episode 6, Unbent, Unbowed, Unbroken. So, aside from that huge impactful moment in general, what did you guys think of the episode?
I only gave it 4.1 out of 5 infuriated sand snakes. I thought there were some great storylines and some others that I was honestly just a tiny little bit bored by or found slightly implausible. And I'll get into that as I go along. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I'm curious.
I can agree with that to a certain degree. I mean, there were elements that I did really like. There were a few moments that I felt were clunky, and I bet we're maybe thinking about the same thing.
We probably are.
Rating, I think I've been getting everything increments of a hundredth of a point. I'm going to go down a little bit, maybe a 4.4 for me, or maybe even a 4.3. But I did enjoy it. Like I said, I'm just uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah.
I really am. It's and for many reasons, most of which, well, whatever. We'll get into that.
And that being said, Jason, you're going to do the entire podcast by yourself. You're okay with that, right?
Yeah, I'll see you later.
Yeah, because I love that last scene. It was so great. Can't wait to talk about it. But aside from that part, I actually thought it was a great episode. There were a couple things I didn't love so much, but I still stand by that. It feels like there has never been a bad episode of the show, and I give it 4.4 dwarf cocks. So
nice.
But that last part,
size cock
or normal size cocks?
Well, I'm guessing that dwarves have varied sized cocks, but I don't know.
Actually, I hate to admit this, but I've seen a porn with a dwarf.
What?
It was called, because my roommate at the time bought it at a liquor store and came home so excited about it. My mom happened to be staying with us at the time.
Oh, that's
she
not
thought it was the
uncomfortable.
funniest thing. So he pops it on. My mom is sitting there. I'm like, oh, dear God. It was a little big cock. And it was all about like a General Custer themed sort of thing. It was insane. Sorry.
So
normal size cock. No,
okay,
it was huge.
okay, good.
Yeah, it looked
That's
very
all
disproportionate on his body.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Can I ask to go first this time?
Yes.
All right.
Go first.
Let's just go ahead and get that.
I'll go last.
That ending out of the way.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about it, and then we can be done with it. So, I thought the episode was great. But it was so hard to love because my mood just went to shit after that ending. It was really disturbing. And I was like, do they really have to end it on that note? But I guess if it happened earlier, then you might sort of not really want to watch anything else afterwards. I don't know. But having said that, when Sansa was fiddling around with her sleeves, I thought, is she going to pull out like a little knife, like a dagger or something? And Jenny, my wife, she said, I'm glad she didn't, because that wouldn't be true to this show and it would be kind of cheesy. And she didn't say this part, but what did happen was true to the show. It's really harsh. And yeah. And also Sansa, I mean, when I watched it the second time, she knew what was going to happen. I mean, I don't know if she knew the extent of how sadistic he would be, and we really don't know either because they cut away. But I think the only thing that really shocked her on second watch was that he had Theon stay there, because when he told her to take off her clothes, she like shot a look over at him. So that's what was really horrifying her. I think she was sort of, reluctantly steeling herself for what she knew was going to happen on her wedding night. And it wasn't really a surprise. And she's doing what she thinks she has to do in order to be in this place that she wants to be, which is in a place to try and maybe seek revenge or get back in a position of power at her home. So I feel like it's a choice, it was her choice to be there. It was horrible, but it wasn't like she got taken against her will.
Well, yeah. Well, she did get taken against her will. If she had it her way, none of that would have happened. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that was definitely against her will.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
See, and this is where this is why this is a very touchy sort of thing, because everybody is flat out saying rape, 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 rape. And it's very frustrating because, as you just pointed out in many different ways, Jason, I mean, she knew what she was in for in terms of wedding night consummation. Maybe she did not realize the sadistic nature, although in her conversation with Miranda, she definitely said, like, wait, hunt?
Yeah, what?
She had the opportunity between that point and the other point to put that light up in the window if she really wanted to say, whoa, hold on, this is what the hell's going on. And I'm not trying to excuse anything. Please, I don't want the emails on this.
No, I mean, I think the only emails we've gotten, well, that's not true. People are horrified by it, but true. There are plenty of people who are saying, they're actually trying to empower her a little bit. Like she's doing what a lot of the women on this show have done, which is
use what she has.
And just go into sexual situations reluctantly. Like Cersei didn't want to have sex with Robert. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying what happened. When Littlefinger talked her into going and marrying Ramsay, she knew that she was going to have to sleep with him.
Now, and this goes back to the last time, Karen, when this came out, I think you asked the question of, do I think Ramsay was going to be a good husband?
No.
and I remember Grace and I were just no, in no way, shape, or form.
Well, now I don't have any more questions about that.
No.
He's not.
And it is, she does not say no at any given point. I mean, it was such an uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
It seemed like no to me. And although
what seemed like, I mean, she didn't like. I'm not saying she liked it or was enjoying, but where was the no?
Karen, do you think that she didn't think she was going to have sex with him on her wedding night?
I'm sure she steeled herself for the inevitable wedding night. Did it happen like she wanted it to? Hell no. And that to me constitutes rape. So because she did not seem like a happy participant. In fact, she seemed like a very reluctant, horrified participant. Everything about her and crying out, all of that, it seemed horrible and seemed to me to be rape. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
you gentlemen are allowed to have your opinions, and I'm allowed to have mine too. And rape is a touchy thing.
Yeah.
So I think we should let ourselves have our opinions and then let it go.
I mean,
I'm not saying it isn't either.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not either. I'm just saying I don't necessarily think that she was surprised by anything that happened. I don't think she expected to go in there and have a pleasant experience. So it's weird because I do think it's rape, but I also think that she put herself, I'm not saying that she's to blame at all, but I'm saying she chose it. It's just like she chose the rape. I mean, that's horrible.
Well, but she didn't choose that.
No, but here's the unfortunate thing. That is this show.
Mm-hmm.
It is an ugly, hateful, mean-spirited, rotten fucking show sometimes, and very bad things happen.
Yeah.
to good people, to
Yep.
bad people.
Yep.
Seems to mostly be to good people. You know,
Yeah.
To bad
it's,
people too.
and yeah, not as often as it should. But it is one of these things where when I hear this big backlash going out in the internets and all this stuff, it does make me just feel like what you do realize what show
we
you're
saw
watching,
Jamie.
right?
We saw Jamie rape Cersei too.
Which was
yes,
all that, don't
and
even
we
get me
saw a
started on
lot,
that one.
and we've seen a lot of, murders, beheadings, on and
Now,
on and on.
and
And
the
you know
arguments-
what? I was thinking about this today because I just saw the last episode of that show Outlander. I don't know if you both have. Well, you absolutely have heard about it. It's the showrunner for Battlestar Galactica, and Outlander is. At least this last episode that I saw, it wasn't the season finale. It was the one before that because I'm a little bit behind. And it is one. I'm off it now because it is there's just no other way to describe it except torture porn. It is absolutely the worst torture porn show I think I've ever seen. And and I don't mind a little bit of violence in my shows. I love Breaking Bad, but a show doesn't have to put torture porn in it to be good. Doctor Who, Star Trek.
Does it matter to you that I don't know too much, but that apparently the book was like 1,000 times worse, and they really pulled back?
It doesn't matter to me at all. We all choose what we want to ingest,
course,
so at some point I might jump off this. Actually,
this made you feel like you don't want to see it.
So,
well, this was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's true. No, it's just all been building up, and there's been a lot of torture porn lately in my television shows. And I take a little break and I watch Parks and Rec, and I watch HGTV and Rehab Addict, and I get a little palate cleanser, and then I can dip back into this stuff. But honestly, this even affects my head, and I don't like it. And so at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if I jumped off it completely.
Yeah, I don't believe that. However, I will say, the arguments that I've heard mostly against it is that it's using rape as a plot point way too often,
right?
In the entire series and in the entire show. Yep. I do get that argument. I really do. Do I think they maybe could have pulled away a little bit sooner so we didn't have to be subjected to the sounds, because we didn't see anything, but the sounds, and of course Theon's tortured face. And I think that may, in the end, have something to do with maybe something happening with Theon in terms of a change internally in him after seeing something.
I wonder about that,
so. But it is unfortunate that, I want people to remember we are talking about a TV show based on a book that is complete fantasy. It is a fantasy world, but it is a reflection, as the best stories of this kind are, of our own history and our own world. And it is a very unfortunate thing that, especially in medieval times, that people are cruel, people are horrible, and women have gotten the shit end of the stick for the majority of human history. And it would almost be untrue and unfaithful to the story if something like this didn't happen.
But you're right. They don't have to keep showing it over and over again. But look, I just want to say, Karen, I totally don't blame you. I mean, Danny, my friend Dan, he jumped off Breaking Bad actually because that got too violent. He decided to stop watching Walking Dead too. So I wouldn't. If you decide you don't want to watch this show anymore, I would totally be on your side about that and not judge you for it at all. I'd be sad that you wouldn't do the podcast anymore, but I wouldn't ask you to watch it if you don't want to watch it. No way.
To be completely honest, it's really all empty threats. I mean,
yeah, that's why I said I knew. That's why I said you wouldn't do that. So
yeah,
over time. But I do want to say, just to add it to the record, the writer, Brian Cogman, of this episode, he said in an interview, this isn't a timid little girl walking into a wedding night with Joffrey.
Yes.
This is a hardened woman making a choice, and she sees this as a way to get back her homeland. That doesn't mean that she chose exactly what she got, and maybe she was shocked, and if she had known what it was going to be like, she would have never been there. That's a possibility.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
But,
absolutely.
yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And she also, because she's sort of Sansa 2.0, she's a different person who's able to stand up for herself. She gave it to Miranda. When Miranda was trying to scare her, she stood on her hind legs and she tells Miranda to get bent, So,
Well, and that's, yeah.
And it
that's
was
part of what I'm thinking.
It was a little disappointing, actually, that she allowed Ramsay to do what he did, and she didn't object to it because she has been standing up for herself a lot more. I was sort of expecting her to say to him, no, that's not okay.
She might get flayed
If she did that. Is she that afraid of him already?
I am.
Oh, we are. All of us
Right?
are, because we're privy to what a sadistic fuck he is. But
But I mean, that's just it.
We
Ask
don't know
yourself,
for sure what he knows.
Ask yourself the question of what would she have done differently?
couldn't she have
No,
said
we
to
just got
Ramsay,
married.
you know what? It's not okay for Theon to watch us.
I don't think that's the part
really
that
think
everybody's
that-
objecting to. I think that's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the forcefulness
The
with
whole
which he
thing was
took her.
horrible.
Objectionable, yeah. But I really don't think, I mean, he's a fucking psycho.
Yes.
And I think there's a good chance if you put, I mean, he said, I don't want to have to ask you twice.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that just reminded me of, back with him and Theon when he got relentlessly tortured over the course of a whole season, which I didn't like either, man. I was
Oh,
like,
it was
that's enough.
awful.
I don't want to see any more of this.
So after the end of season 3, this was something that I remember saying, I think in the podcast that we all did, was, we really thought for the first few seasons that the villain was Joffrey or this kind of thing. And then you really begin to realize, no, the Boltons are scary ass motherfuckers. And for as sadistic as Joffrey was, Roose and Ramsay Bolton are 10 times worse.
Hard to know, though. I mean, yeah, they're worse. But remember, Joffrey hunted and with a bow and arrow or a
Ross.
crossbow. Yeah, exactly.
But you remember it was Ramsay that actually hunted that woman.
No, I'm not talking about her.
I know what you're talking about.
She's talking about Roz.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was. I was also coming more, especially at that season 3 point, more coming from the book perspective, because Roz was never a character. That was made up for the show purposes.
Okay, but it happened.
It did happen in the show. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying.
I think they're both terrible, horrible.
Yes, absolutely.
People,
but I'm saying what it is as things were rolling forward, that Ramsay and Roose Bolton, and this is also going back to the Red Wedding now, where it was Roose that plunged his sword into Robb Stark. It was. These guys have been gearing up for.
So, what's your point? That the Boltons are horrible people,
I'm
right?
just reiterating the
And
obvious.
Sansa has bad luck with men.
Okay, let's move on to something a little lighter, which pretty much anything else would be, wouldn't it? Anything less light?
Oh, the Holy
than this?
Inquest? How about that?
What's your number 5, Mr. Blahg?
Well, it was originally one thing, but I'm going to change it here a little bit and go back to my original thing of what I've been doing for a while of trying to, flesh out the theme of each episode. This one seemed to be very much about truth and lies.
Yes.
And I really love the fact that the theme of lying ran throughout this entire episode.
Yeah, it did.
Whether you were talking about Arya and the obvious game of faces, which is born of lies and telling lies well. And now we finally know what the hell that's all about. The lie that Jorah and Tyrion have to tell. And ultimately the way that the people are using lies throughout this whole story, Cersei, Marjorie, Loras, all of these people, even all of them. They sometimes will use it to save their necks. They sometimes use it to manipulate. There are all these different ways, and yet at the same time, you have Ramsay saying, "Don't lie to me," to Sansa about talking about Tyrion and her wedding night, and even the truth giving by Miranda to Sansa. It was an interesting point of like, no, that's actually truth that she's telling you. How is Sansa necessarily taking it? So that was a big theme in this episode were the nature of truth, the nature of lies and honesty.
And the Holy Inquest, don't forget that. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Loris trying to lie in order to save himself.
Mm-hmm.
And Marjorie backing him up and saying, no, are you kidding me? That dude loves chicks.
And then the lie that Cersei, and then the lie Cersei tells when she says, oh, this can't be true. This is terrible. You know,
right.
A near smirk on her face. And of course, Peter Baelish, who is nothing but a walking lie. Yeah.
Who knows what's true with that dude?
You have no clue. And, you know, his revelation tonight, or last night, I should say, about in this episode about getting a lot closer to the nature of his plans is like, you really are playing all three sides right now.
Yes.
In such a way that you can end up on top regardless of who wins.
Yes.
I think the truest thing he ever said was when he gave that speech to Varys about how chaos is a ladder.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, other than that, almost nothing.
You know, and it's funny that in an episode about lies, you don't see hide nor hair of Jon Snow or Stannis Baratheon.
The two upfront, straightforward.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't. They're
characters.
pretty. Yeah, they're pretty on the.
Or Bran.
Yeah.
Or Bran.
They have no reason to lie.
So that's my number 5. The theme, lies.
I like it.
That's great. That's great. All right, is it my number 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My number 5 was going to be Sansa Stark, but it wasn't going to be what happened on her wedding night. It was going to be what happened preceding her wedding night. How proud I was of her to give it back to Miranda as Miranda's there washing her hair and telling her all these terrible things. Sansa,
She says, I'm Sansa Stark.
This is my
You can't
house.
frighten me.
This is my place. I belong here and you can't scare me.
She sold it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
she did.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh.
Like I said,
She just put her in her place.
Sophie Turner's been killing it this season. And you know, going back to a previous theme, I talked about transformation. It was very nice to see her losing the black out of her hair and going back to her red.
Yes.
Yes, my friend Richard, old good friend of mine who you both met, he has a 16-year-old daughter who looks a lot like her and has red hair. It's uncanny. And I don't know if either one of them has seen the show, but I'm going to send them a picture.
Oh, wow.
Anyway. Yeah, what about the wedding? I mean, I thought the wedding was actually very beautiful, even though it was kind of depressing and sad.
Yes.
You know, I think she had her mother's dress on and just the somberness of it and the lights and the beautiful dress that looked like it came out of Narnia or something.
And in front of the tree, that really amazing tree. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And Theon looked great. Yeah. And it was good to hear him refer to himself as Theon and that he was her father's ward, even though he had to kind of choke that out.
That was so painful to watch that, actually, because, you know, he just...
Poor guy.
Because in his brain, he cannot admit to being Theon of House Greyjoy. I mean, it's just...
It has to be... That's a lie within a lie.
It is a lie within a lie.
It's actually the truth.
Right.
Or something
horrific.
To me, it's got to be there because if there's a part of Theon that's there that hurt for Sansa when all of that was happening with Ramsay. And you could see it in his face and his tears. I'm like, that,
the episode
he knows
ends. The episode ends on his tortured face. And,
yeah.
and remember when he said, we have to go out arm in arm. And she's like, no. And he's just like, but I'll be tortured.
He should have said, you know what? I didn't actually kill your brothers.
Those were random
kids. He can't
I'm okay.
do that, though.
Why not?
He's so brainwashed that he knows that if he tells her the truth, he will be... I mean, he's already lost his dick for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean...
That's why he's afraid to tell her the truth.
So many pieces of his flesh removed and digits removed. I mean, he's just... Oh, that poor, sad sack of shit. Yeah. I mean, he's a horrible monster in the fact that what he did as far as taking Winterfell, I mean, that seems like such ages ago since he did that. You know, just a dumbass trying to prove himself to daddy. So sad. And then the subsequent torture over, as you pointed out, over all of season 3 or 4, whatever it was just horrific and so
I hope he does overcome what happened to him, but I would not count on it with this show. I highly doubt he ever will.
I wish his sister had had actually taken him with her. When she
I'm
was
still pissed about that.
Yeah, she shouldn't have just left him there. I mean, they turned the dogs on. I think there was a moment she could have grabbed him and run.
Dude, she killed 80 people. Then she goes, "Oh my God, 2 dogs, run!"
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous. Yeah, I don't like the way all that was handled, but whatever.
Okay, my turn.
Yes.
All right, here's some more lying. It's Tyrion, who's a great liar. He's a fast talker. So the slavers capture Tyrion and Jorah. I thought this was a great scene. I loved seeing Mr. Echo.
Yeah.
But I had a few quibbles about it, I realized when I watched it again. Even though I still liked it a lot, I still loved it, actually. But just a couple little things that I'm curious about your feedback. So Tyrion bragged about Jorah being this great warrior, but the slaver guy, who I guess doesn't have a name yet, so I'll just call him Mr. Echo, he just... right before that, beat him down really quickly and seemingly without much effort, right?
Yes.
No, he did. No, but he did say, "Boy, you've got a lot of fight in you."
Okay, and we didn't actually see
We
that.
didn't see the whole thing,
but he didn't look like he was even breaking a sweat. But yeah, he did say that. And then Tyrion says, "How will the cock merchant know it's a dwarf's cock unless he sees the cock?" And the slaver said, "It'll be a dwarf-sized cock." And Tyrion said, "Guess again."
Guess again, chomp.
which is the best, my favorite line. But instead of letting him leave until they find a cock merchant, they should have just checked to see if he was telling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, my father was a cock merchant. God rest his soul.
Did he get wealthy, very, very wealthy on it?
Yeah, you make a lot of money. And then Mr. Echo,
gigolos.
Exactly. Mr. Echo said that Jorah, he's 60 years old, but I don't think that guy looks 60 years old. I looked up the actor Ian Glenn. He's 53.
He looks like he was ridden hard and put back wet. That's all I have to say about that.
And then, actually, this isn't a quibble, but since I'm talking about this scene, so Mr. Echo, I looked like he decided, all right, I'm going to take this guy to Marine, have him fight in the fighting pits, thinking that they are for slaves, which makes me wonder if that would be a common mistake. People would go, well, I heard that
fighting pits are open. That's
Daenerys,
all slaves. Yeah,
got rid of the slaves, but now the fighting pits are open, so I guess not. So I presume that if more people came with their slaves, that Daenerys would take advantage of that and just set them free and maybe kill the masters or imprison them or something. But whatever happens, I hope that they do take Tyrion and Jorah to Marine, to the fighting pits. I hope they don't find a cock merchant along the way.
Well, this is ultimately giving us the path to convergence. It's the path to convergence to get everybody in that one place.
Yes.
So
we hope,
it's, however they get there and however they're going to work out the fact that no, it's only supposed to be free men now fighting in the pits. But I think that has more to do with Dany's naivete than anything else.
Yeah, it could be. I know that she doesn't really know what's going on. Oh, and then the last thing is, I liked seeing this guy Adewale something in this new role, because he never smiled that big as Mr. Echo.
No,
and he had a big smile on his face when Tyrion said, "You're looking at one of the greatest warriors in the Seven Kingdoms." And also it was cool to hear him speaking differently, because when he was Mr. Echo, he kind of had this short, choppy way of talking, and here he was expressive.
One is funny because he's looking at Tyrion like, "You are not this great warrior." He's like, no, I'm talking about him. That was great. Absolutely loved that. I really did. And speaking of, the whole Tyrion Jorah thing, I got to say, that scene where Tyrion talks about Jorah's father being dead.
Yeah.
That was again, speaking
scene.
of the acting here, Dinklage fucking nailed that.
So did the other guy too.
No, he did, but you feel that regret.
He barely had any lines.
Yeah.
But you could feel him processing that. But yeah, Dinklage, he was like, "Oh, you didn't know."
And I really felt like that's the way that you would really behave if, you didn't mean to hurt the guy. I think he was just like, I'm sorry, you didn't know.
And the other guy, you could feel him kind of processing it, but not wanting, because he still doesn't really consider Tyrion a close friend or anything. So he can't really break down and express anything. So he just kind of pressed it all down and said, let's move on.
That's the way men were in a certain period of time.
Now, I was wondering, I don't know, it's so hard to keep track, but I don't think we ever saw Tyrion learn about that, but I guess we can just presume that a little raven told him or something.
There's ravens everywhere.
It was well known in Westeros. Yeah, that was a big deal when Jorah Mormont died, or Jeor Mormont died. So
cool.
Oh, I guess we're on me now. My number 4 was the return of Lady Olenna. I thought she had a fantastic introduction in her little palanquin with, opening up the window and I could smell the shit from 5 miles away. Mm-hmm. And just how wonderfully sharp and smart and biting that woman is when she was talking to Cersei. I loved every moment she was on screen. I loved her outrage during the ridiculous trial that was going on with the Sparrows. All of it. Just her presence in the show was so welcome again. And it's wonderful for Cersei to have a genuine foil to play off of. Marjorie, it's nice with the Cersei Marjorie thing, but I feel like that's cute. But when you got the Queen of Thorns, and I'm glad she finally referred to her as the Queen of Thorns, their dialogue together was amazing. So Lena Headey and Dame Diana Rigg, who I adore and love and will always think of as Mrs. James Bond. So happy to see that. So
yeah, that was great. And by the way, what an idiot Cersei is, because Cersei is, let's face it, the Tyrells hold the purse that is funding the Lannisters right now, and all she needs to do is take that money away, and why wouldn't she? So Cersei is an idiot. It really makes you miss Tywin. He would never have allowed this crap to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, she really seems like she's going to endanger this really important alliance between the Tyrells and the Lannisters. Yes. And it makes me think either she's very foolish or she must have some plan or way that she thinks of keeping them together or some way to deal with that, because she seems to have planned for everything else.
Now Marjorie and Loras are in prison and things are not looking too good for either of them.
And that's blatantly stupid, which is why I think, would she really be that blatantly stupid?
Unless her plan all along is to, at the last second, give them a pardon and then make it seem like, she's so benevolent. She pardoned these two. And, she hasn't admitted to being on the side of the crazies. So,
You're also assuming that she's a smart woman.
Right.
Right.
She has been sort of beholden to her really strong just revengeances and things like that at times.
Yeah, she hasn't been playing her cards very well all along. She really hasn't.
Yeah.
So, I don't so far I was impressed. As soon as Marjorie started fronting her a couple of weeks ago, just being brazenly rude to her, I thought, you don't mess with Cersei like that, because she, Ned tried to stand up to her and look where it got him. And so now that we've seen what's happened, she did a really smart thing. She got a whole freaking army on her side. Now I don't know if that's going to end up being good in the long run, but at least so far, she suddenly has a shitload of power and she's making the people who she doesn't like suffer. So I just am not ready yet to write her off as not being smart until I see how it plays out. Maybe.
Let's see. All right. So that was actually my next one as well, was Lady Olenna. I love her too. So
me too. I was so glad to see her. I do feel like, at least right now, she seems the most shaken that I've ever seen her. She had to just let those people take her daughter, the queen, right in front of her, and didn't really have much to say about it.
She is pissed,
but also maybe scared. I don't know. Even when she was standing up to Cersei and called her a tart, she kind of looked at her like, yeah, I did just say that, but is it going to turn out okay? I got a little bit of like weakness in there. I don't know. I might have been imagining it, but I just don't I don't automatically think, yeah, this woman has got everything taken care of and there's no way that she can fall. I hope not, because I like her.
We'll see.
We'll see. You read the book, so you know.
No. No.
Okay. All right. So we're on to number 3. I just have some of my favorite lines from this episode. One I already read was Tyrion's whole thing about guessing again. Bronn said, "Once we have the girl in hand, then what?" Jaime says, "I like to improvise." Bronn says, "That explains the golden hand."
That was a good one.
Yeah. Jorah says to Tyrion, "Do you ever shut up?" I like that.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot in my life. So I'm like,
You're like, yeah, screw you. Yeah. Littlefinger said to Lancel, "We both peddle fantasies, Brother Lancel. Mine just happened to be entertaining." I love that so much. Cersei says, "I'm the insulted party. Sir Loras was promised to me. Instead, he chose the company of boys." Littlefinger says, "One's choice of companion is a curious thing." Meaning,
yeah, hey, your brother.
And then she gets him right back. Yeah, like that Lysa. She was horrible. It's like a playground fight. And then finally, I loved when Olenna says, Renly Baratheon shagged half the stable boys in the Seven Kingdoms. No one cared.
Yeah, and for the most part, nobody does. You know, that's the other sad thing about this whole thing.
Right.
Including Cersei. She's just using all this to gain power. Of course. The only one that cares is that stupid Faith guy.
High Sparrow. Yeah. I guess I'm next then. Well, my number 3, speaking of Bronn, is Bronn and Jaime's fight with the Sand Snakes. Now, this is also a point that I would say is slightly negative because I felt that it kind of landed like a Led Zeppelin. It was a bit of a clunky, less than smooth sort of scene with the Sand Snakes, which was very disappointing.
Especially given the fights that we've seen in the past couple episodes.
Yeah. Now, my first thing would be, dude, Jaime would have been dead going against the actual Sand Snakes. I don't see how he could have even survived that fight. But overall, I thought that entire scene gave a lot of wonderful momentum to the story. Let's go away from the clunkiness of the scene, but in terms of where it propels the story forward, that there was a lot there. You know, they have their designs on Myrcella. Jaime has his designs on her. You know, they were all coming for the same purpose, and they all failed. Well, not the same purpose, but they're all coming from the same target, and everybody failed.
Kind of fizzled. It felt like it fizzled a little bit.
Well, I love the fact that, you know, the guard there is saying, everybody drop your weapons. And the Sand Snakes drop their weapon, but Bronn and Jaime still hold on to theirs until Arya Hota takes his blade up to Jaime's neck. And I love that. Speaking of great lines, he said something along the lines of, "This would have been a great fight if you were whole."
Yeah.
When you were whole.
Like, all right, you're right.
Well, and he is right, which is what surprises me because, no, Jaime would have died at the hands of a sand snake if he, you know, in his condition. However,
I thought he was saying it would have been a good fight between the two of them
if Jaime had his right hand.
Not the sand snakes, but the guard.
No, I'm just saying if yeah, exactly. You know, that would have been if Jaime had his right hand, but he doesn't. But everything leading up to that, I love the whole Bronn and Jaime interactions. Anything with Bronn for the most part is just fantastic. They allowed him to sing because he used to be a pop star.
And he's a horrible singer, I thought. I wanted him to shut up,
not
too.
Our style. But here's my big question with this fight. I'm sure we all saw that Bronn got nicked with one of their blades.
Yeah, did he get poisoned?
Did he get poisoned?
That's the question.
Big question.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's my question with that. And I think Bronn is
not going to get... Just leave it at that.
I think Bronn is toast. I love me some Bronn, but Bronn is gone. Yeah,
I want him to have his little calm castle with his sons fighting over his fortune.
Well, see, here's the problem: is that everything's been going really well for this sellsword. You know, he started off as a lowly sellsword who just stepped in to help out Tyrion. Things have gone way too well for this guy. don't forget what we're reading or watching at this point. This is Game of Thrones. No, you don't get to be happy, brother.
No,
Dead.
you sure don't.
So I think Bronn is toast. I did enjoy it, although I do have my faults with the entire thing, and most of my faults lie with the sand snakes.
It's funny. I had different criticism of that, and my criticism is similar. When Jaime and Bronn were talking, Bronn asked Jaime, "What's our plan?" And Jaime said, "Nah, I like to wing it." Which is crazy, as if he never had any military training. Then they go in there, and apparently you can just waltz right in there if you're dressed up enough. And then they just, happen to bump right into Myrcella? Is that her name?
Myrcella.
Myrcella.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love seeing the two of them
and
together.
instead of waiting until she's maybe alone, which would have been probably a good idea, hey, come on over here. No. They confront her right away when she's with her fiance, Martell. Yes, thank you. And then, of course, everything goes sideways from there. It seems like Jaime has had lots of military training and has strategy. I mean, he's a smart guy. It's inconceivable to me that they would just go in there with no plan at all and then immediately get captured.
They like to improvise.
Well,
that's stupid.
Okay, I think Jaime was going in realizing they don't really know what to expect, and I think he saw an opportunity and he decided to try to take it. You know, it's
the worst opportunity ever.
I think he was trying to just do this just quick and fast. Come on, let's just go. And I think he was probably
they were right. I think they were under the idea that she was a kind of a prisoner and not happy, and it turned out she was having a little romance.
All they had to do is look at her.
Yeah, that's true. She seemed pretty happy.
That handsome young man seems pretty happy.
Who's that? I did like that.
They could have talked to her first alone and seen how it goes.
I did like that one of the sand snakes, the one that had the spear, was twirling around, and her fighting style was similar to Oberyn's, not as good, but you know, they made it a point to show that this is a type of fighting that they do in Dorne. I like that.
Oh.
Do you guys know who that is, by the way?
Nope.
Obara. That's Keisha Castle Hughes. She's the young actress from
Whale Rider.
Oh.
Yeah, it was great.
She's a young Mal.
And she was in The Walking Dead recently.
She was in The Walking Dead?
Yep. You might remember The Walking Dead, the little show on AMC about zombies. You've heard of it.
Yeah.
She was in the hospital.
Really?
Yes.
She wasn't the girl that committed suicide, was she? Oh, are you sure about that? Well, I'll believe you.
99.9%. I don't know. That's pretty sure. There's still a slight, maybe not. But yeah, look it up, brother.
Okay, I will.
Where are we?
I will. Well,
Your
let's move
turn,
on.
Jason.
My turn.
You're number 2.
What the hell am I? All right.
She was also in Star Wars Episode 1, by the way. Or Episode 3, excuse me.
Who'd she play? One of the handmaidens or something?
Yeah, Jar Jar.
So. And you're right. I see her on the Walking Dead credits. Okay. All right. I checked. Well done.
Do I get a point?
Points.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You get points. So this is my favorite thing about the episode was to do with Arya and...
But we're on number 2, right?
Yeah.
And lessons in becoming someone else, I call it. It's sort of similar to what you were saying about the theme of lie, but more specifically to this whole sequence. I loved I'll call her Faceless Girl, even though I think she's Faceless Girl in training. She said she has her evil stepmom killed, and I think that was a lesson to Arya. You know, she just mind fuck. Was that true or a lie? I love that. But for a second, Arya seemed really happy to have someone similar to connect with. And then the rug was kind of pulled out. And then it was interesting because that was sort of like a lesson suggesting, okay, we faceless people can become whatever's needed in the moment or whatever we want by lying. But then later, Jaqen Hagar is repeatedly striking her for lying. And Arya's lying to herself about some things like we all do. And her true feelings for the Hound, which are more complicated than just I hated him. It seemed contradictory at first. For a second, the faceless girl suggesting that Arya lie, but then being slapped by Jack and Hagar for lying. But I think then later she seems to be rewarded for lying by him. She tells the story to the sick girl and to get her to drink the poison water. And then he lets her go back and see what's going on with the dead bodies. But I think she's being taught to be in full control of who she presents herself to be. And when we lie to ourselves to protect our ego, so she's being taught, let go of your ego, let go of these compulsive lies that you have no control over. So you can then be in full control of the lies that you're telling, and you can become whatever you want to be.
Well, I think the point of that was that Jaqen could tell when she was lying.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Okay. So maybe it'll really pass when she's able to lie convincingly. I didn't think about that.
Exactly. And I think that's what the point with the waif, that's the girl.
Because she was convincing.
The waif, and that's when she asked Arya, was that real or a lie? And Arya could not answer her because she couldn't tell.
But I also
and I think the point is when you can tell.
But I also think it's like if you have no choice but to lie. Like she, there was a particular point where she wouldn't even admit to herself that she might have had some feelings other than hate for the Hound. And until she gets over that kind of stuff, then there's no way she's going to be able to convincingly change into somebody else because she can't let go of who she really is. But then later, Jack and Hagar says a girl is not ready to become no one, but she is ready to become someone else, which was very intriguing. Yeah. I can't wait to see where that turns out. What were you going to say, Karen?
How about that room, by the way?
Holy shit.
Faces?
Yeah.
It's freaky.
Now, I got to say, Jason, a little while back, a couple of weeks ago, you were saying, you're really eager to see how all this stuff kind of happens, with Arya. And now you can at least get the sense that, it's not so much magic going on as it is, magic in terms of practical effects. These are faces. They use
them. But you can't really do that in the real world anyway. You can't take a face of a dead person and stick it on yourself and have it look normal.
Oh, didn't you see Silence of the Lambs?
that didn't look quite right. This is
also a world of dragons. This is also a world of dragons.
AKA magic. But so then the lies that Arya told to Jack and Hagar, I didn't quite get why she would. I mean, I understand why she would say her dad died in battle because that's more honorable than being executed.
Or the Polliver lie. Why would she say the Polliver
I didn't understand why she said she drove the sword through the stable boy's back rather than his gut.
I think she was trying to get one over on him.
Oh, so just an arbitrary lie.
I think she was just...
And the same thing with saying Polliver kidnapped her rather than the Hound. Because there's no ego reason I could think of why she would not want to admit that it was, in the gut. I mean, if it was the other way around, I could see.
I think it was doing her best to feel in control of a situation.
Interesting.
By the way, do you think that whacking somebody is the best way to teach them how to be a better liar?
Well, I don't know. It worked.
Maybe it is. What do I know?
Maybe it is. I don't know. I've never trained anybody to be a better liar.
Jenny said her mom told her when she was in school, that's what they would do. They'd whack you on the hands with their rulers.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to help you with your lying technique, but maybe it does. Maybe that speeds
it up any lesson. Right. Yeah, it'll help with pretty much anything, I think.
Mr. Blahg, you're next.
Oh, we're at number 2 here. Mine was Tyrion and Jorah's journey, and we have certainly talked about that.
All right, and my number 2 was actually, we've talked about Tyrion and Jorah also, but I just want to say I thought it was funny that this is the third time that Tyrion has been held captive. I mean, come on, poor guy.
Look, nobody loves a dwarf in this world. That's just all there is to it.
God, he has the worst luck. He's been imprisoned a couple times, twice. He's been held captive 3 times. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
What's your number one?
Okay, so my number one is Littlefinger's plan. So I think we got a little bit more insight into the big picture for Littlefinger this episode. And looking back at all his machinations over the course of the series, it seems like a lot of what he's done can be seen to lead up to trying to become the Warden of the North, which may just be another stepping stone to even bigger things. But like getting rid of John Arryn so that he could get Ned over to King's Landing and have him and the Lannisters go at it, and the Lannisters end up killing Ned, and then that also got him in good with Lysa, and made it so that he could marry her. And I guess becoming Lord of Harrenhal helped with becoming good enough to marry Lysa too. And then he helped Sansa escape King's Landing and eventually married her off to Ramsay, which sort of made Cersei turn against the Boltons and think, oh, they're traitors. They should have not married my enemy. They should have formed an alliance with us. So it's just pitting everybody against each other. So now Stannis is going to go fight the Boltons, and Cersei is totally on Littlefinger's side, that if he can just come in and sweep up that mess, he'll be the Warden of the North. So I don't know. I mean, I think he improvises, and he couldn't possibly have planned all that out exactly as it transpired ahead of time, but it does seem like this is what he was heading towards.
It's pretty brilliant, but as she said at the very end, he's not going to be really successful until he has Sansa's head on his
right.
Well, that's according
which
to
I totally believe that he would do if it would help him. I think he got Ned killed. I'm not sure if he had any part in what happened with Robb and Caitlin and Talisa.
The Red Wedding?
Yeah. But anyway, he got Ned killed, and, I don't think that I think
did he get Ned killed? I don't believe so.
Yeah, because he, first of all, was behind John Arryn.
Yeah, no, that, sure. But that was very much Joffrey.
He told Ned that he was going to have the city guard ready to defend him. And then the city, that was a total lie. But
he had also worked it out with Joffrey that he was not supposed to kill Ned. Now this is going back a ways.
Okay, well that's true. You got
that was Joffrey's
decision. But he did betray
sure.
him, and he would have just been in prison. So out of
I
the
would
picture,
say his
basically.
main motivation, at least for the first 3 seasons, was getting Catelyn. Once Catelyn was gone, he was very interested in Sansa. His entire backstory has a lot to do with all these stories about his love for Cat way back in the day, and then he ended up, sleeping with Lysa and all these other little things. I don't think he expected things to go down quite this way. But as you said, he's an
I think he's wanted power the whole time.
Power,
though.
absolutely.
I think in conjunction.
Absolutely.
So I don't think he was solely after Caitlyn. I think he was also trying to figure out how to get more and more
power.
But I
think you can never underestimate the power of love, as Huey Lewis once said.
Thank you.
And we have our interlude music.
It's the power of love. Oh, no, I'll use the Huey version. God, sorry.
Okay, why don't you just go ahead and go?
Well, my number one was actually Arya's training. I loved it. Actually, I thought the very quiet moments with Arya at the beginning of the show, with her washing the dead bodies and moving into her, that, as we already talked about, that exchange with she and the waif, and then eventually her exchange with Jaqen, and then eventually up to the room of faces, which was spectacular. I loved it. I just thought that was done so well, so very artistically by the director of this particular episode, with allowing us to have those very quiet moments as she so delicately washed those dead bodies, and the way that they cut so that you could see that's different bodies every time they made an edit. it was really well done. And
then when the cut between her giving the poison to the girl and then the next body is her.
Beautiful. No, that was really so.
Yeah.
That entire sequence with Arya was amazing. And also, I just to bring up something as well, I found there was a beautiful parallel between Arya's cleaning of the bodies and Miranda's cleaning of Sansa. There was a very mirrored sort of effect going on with that, which is a little depressing when you think, oh, wait, does that mean Sansa's a dead girl? I don't know. I don't know.
Nope.
I do not know.
Nope.
So
Nice catch, though.
I thought that was so. All of Arya's stuff, absolutely loved. That's my number one. I thought that was the highlight of this episode, and I am very much looking forward to Arya's continued training as a killer. It's wonderful. Yay, a little girl killer. The stories for this show is fucked
because
up.
I watched it in the early broadcast, and it's early on. It's broadcast in standard def, and later on,
I watched both.
It's broadcast in high def. So when I saw it, all the Arya stuff was really dark. I mean, literally. Really dark. I could barely see what was going on.
Looked much better in the high def. I do the same thing. I watch the 6 o'clock airing on the East Coast feed, and then I watch the high def 9 o'clock feed, and I'm always shocked at how much better the high def looks.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go back and watch it in high def so I can see, because I didn't even notice the cuts that when Arya was washing the bodies that they belonged to different people. I didn't notice that because on my television it all looks the same to me. Yeah, that's sad. And
that's why I watch both. I have to watch the 9 o'clock because I'm just like, okay, what did I miss? And I found I've missed things in the standard def.
That HBO Now is really clear. Right at 6 p.m. I don't want to add too much, but it's the whole scene with when she first walks into that room with the rows and rows of heads is so beautiful in a really morbid kind of a way. And that's kind of like the wedding was beautiful in a morbid way.
I love the way she put her hand on the one face and was almost like lovingly rubbing. And it's like, do they prepare? Is that what like part of the washing of I think part of the washing of the bodies has to do with a respect and a reverence for those that have passed and for the body.
But maybe harvesting the faces?
Well, I
thought that woman, I was like, had my eyes half closed because I thought she was going to go boo or something.
But there was a certain reverence and respect given as I felt there was a certain lovingly, the way she was touching the cheek of that face was beautiful in, as you say, a very morbid, dark, ew sort of way. But it fit. And I thought it worked really well. I thought that was a phenomenal scene. I was just blown away. And I got to say, Karen, do yourself a favor. Watch the HD version of that because it is spectacular. It really is.
Okay. All right. So my number one, it's a different number one actually than yours, either of yours. I thought that the life, the art imitating life of Loris's Holy Inquest. I liked that scene. I liked the scene of him on trial. And, right now in the United States, the Supreme Court is weighing whether or not to legalize gay marriage throughout the United States. So, and I make no bones about where I stand on that issue. And so the fact that it was really cool to see in this universe, apparently, you can also be on trial for being, although that's not what the Supreme Court's weighing right now. They're weighing legalizing gay marriage. It was still really fascinating to see it played out in the court of Game of Thrones. So that was it. And it was also very sad when Marjorie was taken away and she yells, "Please, Tommen, please," at the end, "Tommen!" And Tommen just is such a little boy and just sort of sits there and he makes no move or anything to help her. Oh, so sad.
I wonder how much that kid even understands about what the hell's going on.
He needs an advisor, and
who's not his mom.
Maybe, and maybe it can be Olenna. If I was a 16-year-old king or however old he was, I'd be looking for some advice from people that look like they knew what was going on. And Marjorie needs a lawyer.
Yes,
they exist in Game of Thrones, but
yeah, I wonder, do they? How is she going to get out of it? How are either of them going to get out of it other than to be pardoned at the last minute by Cersei? I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's
I guess that more people who are into Game of Thrones, my guess would be that more of them would be supportive of gay marriage, but I don't know for sure. But, while I'm on a touchy subject like that, I also want to mention, if you want to write in to me about that first thing that we talked about, the end scene, I know it was touchy, and I'm totally open to having a dialogue with people about that because, I don't know, it's just a touchy subject, and I want to be really open-minded and listen to what other people have to say about it and things like that. So,
one thing about just going back to that now that we brought that back up, it was interesting. A friend of mine that I work with, she does not get around to being able to watch the show until Monday night. And she went up to our mutual friend. I've talked about this fellow before, Alex, the one I mine for all the Game of Thrones information I can, because he mines Reddit and every other source he can for every little tidbit. He knows all the production shit going on. He's told me things, whatever. She said, she went up to him today. So, how was last night's episode? And he said, well, I'll say this. Trigger warning. And sometimes totally, I do feel maybe the show would do a good job of letting people know before an episode that has something along these lines to say, look, trigger warning. This is, well, it is a very sensitive thing. And I apologize as well for any insensitivity that I may have shown and saying like, look, she didn't say no. I was just parsing out what we saw on the show itself, not how any individual may feel. And we are all entitled to feel how you may feel about that. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. It is a sensitive subject. It is a touchy, personal thing. And as a man, I'll be straight up here. I feel awkward and uncomfortable even talking about this because it is not our milieu to discuss, necessarily. Although a conversation can be had, and I don't think a conversation should always be one-sided. It should be two-sided, but very touchy subject, icky things to talk about. And thank you guys for being patient with us. That's all. I'll run away now and hide in a corner.
Let's move on to notes. Do you guys have any notes?
No, mine was actually Littlefinger, but you covered that.
All right, I'm going to just try to go through mine very quickly. So I noticed most marriages on the show are political alliances. There's been several lately: Myrcella and Trystane, Marjorie and Tommen, Sansa and Ramsay, Daenerys and Hizdahr. And then you go back, you get Cersei and Robert, even Ned and Catelyn. Pretty much all of them except for Robb and Talisa that I could think of.
And that ended in horrible death.
Yeah.
But all of these are all political marriages.
Myrcella and Trystane are both. At least they are hot for each other. I don't know if it's true love, but they have a political marriage and a genuine attraction, it looks like.
Oh, they're young.
Yeah.
They enjoy Nick.
Look, Tommen really loved his time with Marjorie. He wanted to do it all day, every day.
That's true. Yeah. And she seemed to think he was an all right kind of guy. Let's see. I thought it was interesting that Tyrion admitted that part of the reason he killed Tywin was because Tywin was fucking, quote, the woman I loved. I mean, I just think it's great that he doesn't, make any bones about that. He's like, that's what happened. Let's see what else. Jorah said he was cynical about the world like Tyrion until he saw Dany come out of the fire with the dragons. I thought that was interesting because my first thought was, well, he already seemed pretty devoted to her before that, but I guess he was on her side, but when she came out of that fire, that's when he bowed down on his knee and called her queen.
He was still ratting her out to
Are you
King's
sure about
Landing.
that?
I forget when exactly it happened.
I think it was before that he stopped. Like maybe after Viserys got gold headed.
Crowned. Before he was crowned.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't recall either, but I like that line as well. The fact that it's hard to be cynical after that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Robin was, this is just me being dumb probably, but that Robin was actually still Lord of the Eyrie. I thought Littlefinger was, but he's just sort of, I guess Robin defers to Littlefinger.
He's the Queen Mother. But.
Yeah. You'd think Littlefinger might want to stay there and cement his ties to the place.
Well, he was sending Robin off to military school.
Yeah.
So.
Cersei said the weather has already begun to turn. That's another sign that winter may actually finally be coming. We've been getting these signs. It's snowing in Winterfell, so maybe winter will actually come. What else? I wondered if Cersei's main goal was of this whole thing that she's been doing lately was just that last bit where she got Marjorie on the stand to get her to perjure herself. That was all. I wondered if it was all leading just to that moment. And then finally, I would like to say that I also have a birthmark roughly in the shape of Dorne. Yeah.
Really?
It's right on my leg. It's not I could actually
That's
show
cool.
it to you and it would be okay. It's just above the knee. So we move on to listener responses.
Well, you're going on trial now that we know this. Yeah, let's move on.
I'm broadcasting it to everyone so that anyone who knows it won't get in trouble because they could say they heard it on the podcast. All right.
Now I'm curious. Now all I can think about is your birthmark on your thigh, or on your leg. I know it's kind of dirty.
I'll show it to you later.
Sweet.
Okay,
I feel better. Thank
it's
you.
a date. All right. Christina Sauer says it was a mixed episode for me. The sand snakes fell flat for me, and the ending was beyond brutal. Tommen needs to grow a pair, and Tyrion almost lost his pair.
Maria Angel Diaz says, I think the last 10 minutes traumatized me.
Yep.
Bridget Najor writes, I cheered when Sansa held her own against Miranda in what should have been a very vulnerable situation, but that just made that last scene all the more unbearable and, dare I say, excessive. Yes,
you dare.
I agree. I sure hope this is a turning point for Sansa and Theon. I don't want to imagine how things could get any worse for them.
Yeah, me too. John Hauser says, Littlefinger is one hell of a player. I still can't guess what his endgame is. To have Winterfell and Sansa, I can't quite peg him the good guy or the bad guy. I would say bad guy.
Bad guy.
You're a bad guy. Jeremy Hawley says, given that rumors about Tommen's parentage are apparently commonly known, based on recent episodes, I'm really wondering whether Cersei has really thought about this before she started setting her scheme in motion. And the fact that she fucked Lancel senseless as well.
I'd like to see this all come crashing down on her. Yeah, can't Lancel get in trouble for that?
Me
I guess
too.
if he converted, then anything that happened beforehand is okay.
We'll see.
She drove him to it. Robin Young Sanders writes, I had nightmares last night over the last few minutes of the show. It was very upsetting.
Oh,
yeah.
Bill Badboy says, sad to say, I think book talk is just about done.
Oh, almost. It'll be a short one this week. Alicia Gotsis Stout. Oh my God, I'm sorry. My apologies, Alicia. I have questions. Do you think Brienne will come in at the right time to save Sansa? Maybe.
Oh,
Maybe.
late.
Oh, no. Good God. No, she still has a long way to go before she's gone. We'll see. Or Theon will kill Ramsay. Maybe.
No.
How exactly do you catch grayscale?
Touch one of those stone men.
Stone dudes.
By
Skin contact.
skin
right?
touch, yes.
Yeah.
When the slave pirates caught them, did you see Jorah grab Tyrion and put his arm around him? Is it only skin-to-skin contact? Yes.
Yes.
Who knows?
You know,
it is, 'cause
yeah,
you see
George should have said, I want to show you something, and held his wrist up to that guy and then rubbed it all over his face.
That would have been good. But no, you remember the stone man grabbed the leg of Tyrion when they were underwater, but because it was the clothing, he did not contract it.
He should have rubbed it
skin
on
to skin.
Mr. Echo's nose.
That
I'm
would've
just
been
rubbing
good.
your nose for good luck.
Ned Rogers says, the fight scene in the water gardens was clumsy, but I'm willing to chalk it up to limited time to choreograph the scene on location as it was filmed in a major public tourist attraction. Yeah, that's a great point.
Radames Montes says, I'm so effing angry right now. The last 10 minutes of the show was effing brutal.
You know, you actually can curse on this show. Just so you know. Just saying. Jason Weaver says, Tommen may have no control over the sparrows, but he does everyone else. Why not send Mama away like he talked about before? The King's Guard has got to be better armed than the sparrows, so send a legion of troops in to take back Loras and the Queen by force. What is that sad little religious army going to do about it?
Yeah, they're barefoot,
I think
man.
it's about the importance of the church, I guess. Like Cersei was saying a few episodes ago, they're like the two pillars are the crown and the church. So maybe it would just be really bad in the eyes of the public. I don't know, though.
He's under his mom's
yeah.
thumb. He needs to get out of her thumb. Matt Whitehurst writes, I enjoyed it until the end. I have to give this one 4.3 little fingers.
Iris Monge Siegert says, damn that Theon Groasack. Oh, wait.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, you guys. We made it through that. It was a little rough, but we made it through.
Yeah.
Let's move on to news about Game of Thrones.
The power of love is a curious thing. Make a one man weep, make another man sing. Change your heart to a little white dove. More than a feeling, that's the power of love.
All right, this week we actually talked about one of my news items already, which was about that horrifying scene. But I thought I'd give you one more perspective about that horrifying scene, and it comes from Entertainment Weekly, and it's from Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa Stark, and she reveals how she loved that horrifying scene. Swear to God, that's what the headline says. Entertainment Weekly writes, what was your reaction when you got the scripts and realized what was going to happen in this season? Sophie Turner says, last season, Thrones director Alex Graves decided to give me hints. He was saying, you get a love interest next season. And I was all, I actually get a love interest. So I get the scripts, and I was so excited, and I was flicking through, and then I was like, are you kidding me? I thought the love interest was going to be like Jaime Lannister or somebody who would take care of me. But then I found out it was Ramsay, and I'm back at Winterfell. I love the fact that she's back home reclaiming what's hers, but at the same time, she's being held prisoner in her own home. When I got the scripts, it was a bit like, dude, I felt so bad for her, but I also felt excited because it was so sick, and being reunited with Theon too, and seeing how the relationship plays out. Theon's a member of the Stark clan, but she thinks he's totally betrayed and killed her brothers. It's a messed up relationship between them. And finally, I wanted to read one other thing. You're sort of stuck with the two most messed up characters in the show. And she replies, Theon's just mental. Oh. I think it's going to be the most challenging season for me so far because it's so emotional for her. It's not just crying all the time like seasons 2 or 3. It's super messed up.
Sophie Turner is killing it. I love that girl. You know, look, you got to give credit for the casting of this show. They started off, they had to cast all these young kids who would eventually end up to be what they are now. Between Maisie Williams and Sophie Turner.
They got lucky.
Yes.
I mean, they got lucky. Right now, Entertainment Weekly this week actually has a wonderful interview with Maisie Williams about being Arya, and she just turned 18 recently. That tiny little girl is actually 18.
Yeah, because they they've recast some of the
She's-
kids.
Yeah, they had to recast like the Tom and Marcella and Rickon and the kids that we don't see much of. But, you know, Maisie Williams, she now has a little cute earring, or no, excuse me, nose ring that she wears. Love her. Sophie Turner is just amazing. I mean, she's 5'10". She towers over the majority of the cast at this point. And killing it. I love to hear that. Thank you so much.
By the way, she finishes with, they ask her, have you read the book version? And she replies, "No. Does Theon join in or something?" And the interviewer says, "Yup." And she said, "Yeah, like thank God that didn't happen. But it would be interesting to film."
Oh my God, I'm oddly turned on right now.
I know. I thought you guys liked that. By the way, so I have one more, and then I have a spoiler. But the next one's not a spoiler. So the next one is, and this is for you, Jason. Telltale's Game of Thrones episode 4 out soon.
I still haven't played it.
Yeah. According to the company's Twitter account, episode 4, to be called Sons of Winter, is due, quote unquote, soon on all platforms. That could mean as early as next week, but the week after, the May 26th, 27th,
right on.
Just as likely.
Yeah, I recommend that to
you
people if you want to feel like you're in the middle of a Game of Thrones episode and you have to make those hard choices and try to play the system, then play that game.
Choose rape. It works out well.
Good Lord. And finally, my last one, I was going to say that it's a spoiler, but it's actually something that we spoke about in our top 5 merry-go-round. And it's from Vanity Fair. And the article is, "Did Bronn get poisoned?" And so they say, "Tonight's episode of Game of Thrones carried a death sentence for one of your favorite characters. Did you miss it? Were you distracted? I don't blame you. Well, just in case it passed you by, here it is again. The tail end of the fight between Bronn," and they describe it. So they say, "The stilted fight choreography of the scene aside, the real tragedy is this. The dagger was likely poisoned, and this could be the end of Sir Bronn of
Jesus Christ, I didn't know that. Aw.
They're just saying it was likely. We don't know. We don't know anything more than we knew before.
That sounds pretty definite, but aw.
Well, they say, "How do we know the dagger was poisoned?" Well, in the context of the show, we know that Oberyn Martell was a dab hand at poisons. In last season's Breaker of Chains, Tywin tells Oberyn, "I hear you studied poisoning at the Citadel."
La 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 la. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to hear it because I like Bronn, but
okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm upset by this too. By the way, just so you know, this is not in the books at all. So I'm like, what? No. I mean, Bronn isn't even supposed to be down there.
You know, they're just
I've completely assumed Bronn is going to die. So it's not really that big. Like I said,
no. All you're saying,
for him.
You're not saying any spoilers. You're just saying stuff
dies.
we already know. They're poisoners, and why would they have focused in on that unless there was something to it? So.
Totally. Unlike a certain show we know where somebody gets nicked in the arm with zombie goo all over it.
Or just like zombie spews all in their nostrils and pores and everything.
Yeah. Just saying.
All right, that's it for news.
Yay, let's move on to Raven's Calls. I hear a couple extra ravens this week. There are a couple extra ones. Okay, let's keep going with the same order. This first one is from Heather. She says, "So last 10 minutes, re-raised some questions in our home. Basically, how far does Littlefinger's plan go, and if he really has any concern for Sansa's overall well-being? I remember one podcast, season 3 finale, Mr. Blahg mentioned Sansa had become a player in the Game of Thrones and no longer a pawn. I'm curious if this still holds true. I was waiting for my happy ending with Sansa and Theon taking down Ramsay Bolton. But then my husband reminded me, silly rabbit, this is Game of Thrones, not an episode of Friends."
I missed that episode of Friends.
Yes, I do believe it still holds true. I think she understands her place, and I do believe she is still playing the Game of Thrones.
I do too. Even more now, because why subject yourself to that unless you were doing something deliberate, you know? Otherwise, she would be fucking out of there, I would think.
Okay, our next letter comes from Tariq Lascar. A quick update for everyone on Westeros Season 5 MVP, Most Vile Person Award. Cersei, really? Okay. Cersei is running away with Ramsay. It at the moment, I think. I think Ramsay. But you're entitled to your opinion. Who would be your candidates? Ramsay, Roose. Meanwhile, this week seemed to be a week of bluffs, double bluffs, and busted bluffs. Arya is beginning to learn that the Game of Faces is kind of like the Call My Bluff game show, And Jaqen Hagar is a pro at it. Love that bit when she said she hated the Hound and was called for a lie. The High Sparrow, with probably an assist from Cersei, dramatically busted Sir Loras and Queen Marjorie. And Tyrion used his expert bluffing skills to buy himself and Ser Jorah some breathing room in a tight spot. The episode did feel hurriedly edited, though. I would give it 4 surprise witnesses out of 5.
That's great.
I did you miss the last few minutes of this show or not? Sorry, go on.
Out.
Yeah, I think so.
This next email is from Kara, who writes, Game of Thrones weddings are clearly never a pleasant occasion. That being said, the end of this week's episode involving Sansa's horrible loss of virginity to Ramsay while Theon looked on was one of the most disturbing moments of the series so far for me. Instances of violence are one thing, but this sort of visible sexual violence and degradation resonate on another level. Ramsay, at least to me, is by far the most depraved and least forgivable character. Every other wedding we've witnessed, let it be it red or purple, has at least seen violence rear its ugly head for a more understandable reason, the desire to acquire power and the desire to protect power and those who are close to it. Ramsay has taken something from Sansa that she could never get back, and I had a more difficult time watching that scene than almost any other. Yeah, while I haven't read the series by George R.R. Martin, a.k.a. Jar Jar Martin, I predict a horrible, pretty please death of Ramsay at the hands of either Sansa, Theon, or both at the same time. That's my edit by series end. Kara in Texas.
Oh, you're pretty anti-Theon, huh?
Me?
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry. No, what am I saying?
Anti-Ramsay.
I missed the point. You wanted to see Sansa and Theon both gang up on Ramsay.
Yeah, at the same time. It would be. They could double team.
You could be anti-Theon as well. There's nothing wrong with being anti-Theon.
But that's not what. Yeah, I misunderstood.
But yeah, no. Ramsay is. Dude, Ramsay.
Yeah. P.S.
There's a P.S.
I love this new sassy Sansa. When she asked Miranda how long have you loved him, I literally shouted at my TV, "Damn, get it, girl!" Pretty sure those words have never left my mouth. It's great.
I love that. I thought, and I gotta say, I really did love that scene with Miranda and Sansa. I thought that was so well played. And I really was cheering for Sansa at that point. I felt like, holy shit, this girl knows how to do it at this point. And then the end happened.
Yeah.
This next one is from Chris French, who says, quote, failed career choices. You know you've hit rock bottom when you become a cock merchant.
Bad career choice.
I'm sure that's not the only thing they sell. It's just a little thing on the side for some other kind of merchants.
Cocks and dried boobs.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry. From Drea Age, haiku review for you. Queen Mother Rook's Queen. Sansa meets the real Ramsay. Littlefinger plots.
That could be the end of every Game of Thrones haiku.
It really could.
Littlefinger plots? Yes, it absolutely
Littlefinger plots.
That fucking Cersei. I wouldn't go up against that old woman that killed Joffrey. But then again, I guess she doesn't know that part yet. Yeah, she didn't watch the show.
Yeah.
Poor Sansa. We knew she wouldn't be safe forever, but that asshole Ramsay. Guess he lived up to his name.
Oh.
So what will... God damn, really? So what will Greyjoy do now? I think he grows back a pair and saves God, this is painful to read. I think he grows back a pair and saves Sansa. It's one thing to lose hope for yourself and fall into a pit of despair, but seeing someone you love so savagely treated, maybe this is the push that tears him from Ramsay's grip. I sure hope so.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Me too. Totally.
This is from James, who writes, I know that you'll have already covered the world-shattering reveal that there are cock merchants. So here are some other points I observed in this episode. One,
Dicks
Lady
for
Olenna
sale.
definitely...
Get your dicks for sale.
They're lucky.
We've got
Lady
giant
Olenna-
cocks, dwarf cocks, dorn cocks, cocks from the wall.
Black cocks, white cocks, yellow cocks. Get them here while they last.
Sorry.
Lady Olenna definitely won the opening salvo in her conversation with the famous tart queen Cersei, but I was really surprised to see Cersei get the last word in that conversation. Olenna's not the kind of lady to let that happen. It makes me wonder what card Olenna has up her sleeve that she hasn't played
I hope
yet.
she has.
Yeah, she does. You're not going to get any more money from us, Cersei. You strumpet. Stannis is on the march, and this week we saw snow starting to fall at Winterfell. Does this mean that there's bad weather on the way? Yeah, winter definitely has come. How far away is Stannis from Winterfell at this point? There could be trouble. I think the wedding with Theon saying his real name for the first time in many months or years is the point where he starts coming back to who he really is. With everything he's had to go through, I think it will take a while for him to make that mental transition back to Theon. By the end of the season, I think we'll see Theon, not Reek, trying to make amends for what he's done to the Stark family.
I hope so, but I don't think so.
Finally, cock merchant. Sincerely, James and
Cocks for sale. Get your cocks.
Peanuts, popcorn, cocks. This is from Olivia Deck. I'm not sure what the deadline is to make the cut for the cast. No biggie if I missed it. I just wanted to comment on something David, I believe, said during last week's podcast. During the discussion on the power in King's blood, it was mentioned that Robert got to be king due to right by conquest. This is only part of it. The war is most commonly known as Robert's Rebellion, but it was Jon Arryn rising up in rebellion and defying the Mad King when ordered to turn over Eddard and Robert that started the rebellion. The Arryn, Starks, and Tullys were the first houses to join the rebellion. Robert did win a lot of battles, but it is his bloodline that secured the Baratheons the throne over Arryn, Starks, and Tullys. Robert is a Targaryen. His grandmother is the daughter of Aegon V. This is what makes Robert's blood special to Melisandre. Very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll let David know.
Okay, cool. They have two calls. This is Ethan from Silver Springs, Maryland.
Hey, this is Ethan from Silver Spring, Maryland. I'm sorry, but this week's episode, I don't expect everything to come up high garden roses for everybody every week, but nothing good happened to anyone the whole episode. There's only so much abuse I can take in an hour.
Agreed.
I give this 2 out of 9 thrones. No, you know what? I give it 2 out of 11 thrones. Take care.
Whoa!
P.S. Okay, Arya getting to see the Library of Faces was pretty cool, but I'm not changing my score. You can't make me.
No, we're sympathizing. I mean, it's a damn dark show. Yeah, we could use a little lightness. I mean, you could sort of say, okay, well, Tyrion maybe he's still being escorted to Daenerys, just not under the same circumstances that he might like.
True.
Okay, and then finally we have a guy from New York.
Hola y felicidades Podcastica Network. I'm calling to talk about the Sand Snakes, and I'm sure a lot of other folks are frustrated with them. As a Latino, a Puerto Rican, or an American of Puerto Rican descent, I was really frustrated with seeing the lack of development of these quote-unquote Spanish-speaking or Spanish-accented Sand Snakes. We've only seen 2 minutes of on-screen time for the Sand Snakes, and their fighting prowess was not in any way paid off. We saw them fail against Jaime, whom, from everything we've seen thus far, should not have been able to take on the Sand Snakes, or even one of them. We of course, like one of your listeners said last week, the accents are not great, just not great. And on a show where character development is so imperative, as David said a few weeks ago, that sometimes the slow episodes are my favorite episodes as well. We just haven't seen character development from these folks. And this is something that happens time and time again with Latinos on television and in films. They're sort of assumptions made about them and no real development of who they are. Specificity is key. And that's what Game of Thrones is giving us, and they're not giving to us with Sand Snakes. And I'm concerned that, as some of you have mentioned, that, this is maybe off-page work from the writing, and it's just missing something here. And we don't even get to see the fight between Jaime and the Sand Snake. And it's over, 2 minutes, and it's over. So I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say about that. Thanks so much, and keep going, Podcastica. I'm so happy for you guys.
Thanks.
Well, somebody from New York, I got to say, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think
we've said as much. Yeah.
All of the Dornish people have been underserved. The accents, basically because of Oberyn, the actor who played Oberyn, the fake accent he put on became suddenly the accent of everybody in Dorne.
I like it. I mean, I like the style, the visual style, and even the accents. But I don't like the stereotypical behavior and the light development.
I think the unfortunate thing is that anybody who actually has an ear for it recognizes that all of those are extraordinarily bad accents. Bad
Latino accents, yeah.
Yes, they really. I mean, we already brought up the fact Keisha Castle Hughes is Maori. I mean, she's from New Zealand, so none of these people, I believe, actually are Spanish-speaking people, and they're coming up with these ridiculous accents.
Yeah, because the Dorne guy, the king, he's Indian, I think.
Yeah, so they're. I agree with you. I think they've been underserved. I don't think they're handling these characters that are, I'm going to go ahead and say this outside of book talk slightly, but the Sand Snakes and many of these characters are beloved in the book world, and they're being underserved. So I'll agree. Wow. With you.
That's hard to believe given what we've seen from them, but okay.
Oh, they're beloved in the fact that they're fucking awesome. They're not as awesome on screen.
On the screen.
I'm just saying that.
No.
All right. That's it for Ravens Calls. Thank you so much. We got more emails than ever. Appreciate you guys' feedback.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
We're going to move on to book talk. This week it will be a solo affair with Mr. Blahg.
By myself. Yeah. It's going to be short.
All right.
Heads up.
Take it away, Mr. Blahg.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into book talk for this episode. Oh man, as you can well imagine, book readers, if you're listening to me right now, this is a challenge because there were so many things that were different. There were so many things that were out of the realm of anything that we cover in the books that it's a little tricky, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to think. I don't even have anything written down. I'm going to go ahead and just try to go through this as best I can. Let's start with Arya. Plays differently, however, I like this. And I think what we're going to get out of this now is she's going to go be cat of the canals for a little bit. And as punishment, she's going to, what viewers are going to think is punishment is actually going to be her going blind. So he's going to make her blind. I think in this period, she will end up killing Meryn Trent, who is there with Mace Tyrell. So I think Arya will be cat of the canals, kill Meryn Trent, come back to the House of Black and White and be blinded. And that is where we're going to end up at the end of the season. And again, viewers are going to think that she's being punished the same way us book readers did for quite some time until we got resolution on that. That's Arya. Let's move on then to, Tyrion and Jorah. Happened in a very different way in which they get captured. Of course, there's no Penny in any of this. But let's just go with it. This is fine. It is tweaked. It is a little bit different, but it's all about that convergence to ultimately get to Dany and the fighting pits and all that good stuff. So fine with that. I am avoiding the elephant in the room. I will get there shortly. Let's get to the trial with the Sparrows. So Loras is in no way, shape, or form involved in any of this. Okay. The way they bring down Marjorie is with her fucking the Kettle Blacks and not being a virgin before Tommen. And we all know that is not even true in any way. So fine, we get something that kind of is true now, but it's a little bit different. Now, I can't wait until Cersei. How's this going to go down with Cersei? Is Loras going to finally out this? How is this going to go down? I'm guessing episode 9 is when Cersei's walk of shame is going to happen. We'll find out. But that entire trial, Lady Olenna obviously is nowhere to be seen at this point. So her presence in the show is nothing but a bonus for everybody. What else can we then talk about? Dorne. we all know Jaime and Bronn are not there. The whole thing with Ares Oakheart happens totally differently. Of course, they were not planning on killing Myrcella, as I think they were planning in the show. It was more of a political maneuvering thing in the book. But, okay, they had to do what they had to do. Different. This has been different since the beginning. There was no call to violence other than from the Sands. Even that was political machinations. So a totally different sort of thing. Oh, I'm missing something here completely. Littlefinger, he's never gone back to King's Landing, so none of that happened. And I guess we finally need to talk about the one thing I don't want to talk about, which, as you've all heard before, what happened with Sansa and Ramsay. If you'll all recall, book readers, what happens with Jane Poole and Ramsay was substantially worse than anything that happened on the show before. And it's been kind of interesting to hear book readers being outraged by what they saw, because ultimately, no, what Ramsay does in the book is much, much, much worse. I mean, first of all, he even it's Theon that has to strip her down instead of just watching. So there were a lot of things. And of course, the detail of the depravity is much greater in the book. But it was really frustrating to have to deal with show watchers, and this is the show in general and the way that the show depicted this. Fascinating to me because it's ugly, it's horrible, all the things that we talked about in the episode. But the book version is just beyond horrific, and I'm so glad we did not have to be subjected to so much of what Martin delivers on the page. And it offers this fascinating perspective on everything. So, I don't know. I think that kind of covers all the book talk stuff. Sorry, guys. It's a little weird doing this on my own, as to not have somebody to bounce ideas back and forth. I would have loved to have Grace or David here with me. Miss you guys. And that kind of does it for book talk for me. We are really running into this thing where the book talk section is essentially, Bill Bradbury said it best, book talk is just about done. And it really, really is, because even everything that we're talking about is so radically departed from the books. I can't think of too many things that were bang on. Arya comes the closest, but even in that, the waif was nowhere, didn't feel nearly as antagonistic to me in the book as she's appearing in the show. We know it's not Jaqen Hagar in the show, it's the kindly man. But I'm really hoping to see the blindness thing happening. I can't wait to see what that does to show watchers, and whether or not they're going to be completely fucked off when it comes to the fact that it's like, oh my God, they made her blind. Because I remember as book readers, that's how I thought as well, and it left off on that. Now as a book reader, I felt like, no, there's going to be something to it, but it's not a punishment. And can't wait for Cat of the Canal. So let's go ahead and return back to the show with Jason, Karen, and myself.
All right, we're back, and it's time for next week on Game of Thrones.
Okay, so next week the episode is titled The Gift.
And the plot description says, Jon prepares for conflict. Sansa tries to talk to Theon. That's interesting. Brienne waits for a sign. Wow, Brienne waits. That should be fascinating. Stannis, I do think Sansa trying to talk to Theon is interesting, though. Stannis remains stubborn. Okay, so he's just standing there. And Jaime attempts to reconnect with family.
Sounds very different
than
this week.
I wanted to ask you guys, and you probably don't know what this refers to, but maybe Eric does know what the gift refers to.
I do.
Do you want to say?
Is it exciting? Don't say. No, I don't want to hear.
I'm not going to say squat, man.
All right.
No, listen to book talk. I'll bring it up then.
Okay. Listen to book talk. He'll bring it up then.
All right. Okay. You ready to close it out?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
right, that's our show, episode 10. Thanks for listening, everybody. Before we close, I just wanted to ask you guys, what are you looking forward to pop culture-wise? Anything in particular?
In general? Well, I still need to see Mad Max. I'm bummed I didn't see it this weekend. I know you saw it, Jason.
I saw it in Baja California. It was Loco Maximo.
Jenny posted that she really loves it on Facebook and wants to see it every day.
It was
every day
incredible.
For the rest of the summer, right?
Incredible.
So I'm itching to see that. As far as anything pop culture related, I don't know.
And I'd like to say that along those lines, I'm very much looking forward to seeing yesterday's season finale of Mad Men. Get it? Mad Max. Mad
Max.
I didn't see it last night. It was a season finale, and we have it saved up, and so I'm really stoked about seeing the season finale.
I can't wait to hear what you think. I saw that too. Yeah, totally. We got to talk about it.
Okay, good.
I'm looking forward to Star Wars the most. So can't wait.
Well, fuck, that's in December.
It's a
that
ways
doesn't
out.
even count.
But also this Inside Out, this Pixar movie that's coming out pretty soon.
Oh, God, it's getting rave reviews already. Mm-hmm. It's coming out saying this is the best Pixar, which saying it's the best Pixar, that's like saying it's the best Jesus. I mean, oh my God, that's amazing. So I can't wait to see it.
The best Jesus. And also tomorrow night, tonight David's at the U2 concert, and tomorrow night I get to be there with David at the U2 concert, so yay.
2 U2s in a row?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's right down the street, too. It's just a couple blocks away.
I didn't even know.
Did you know that was my very first concert ever when I was 12 years old, was U2 for the Unforgettable Fire Tour, December 19th, 1984.
Super cool.
You liked it, didn't you?
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
My first concert was Boston. What was yours, Karen?
Oh my
The
God,
Who.
that's awesome.
Who?
The Who?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You win.
Yeah. I don't know. Boston's pretty good. All
right. If you want to call us, as 2 other people did this week, you can reach us at 813-563-3739. That's 813-JOFFREY.
You can email us at game@podcastica.com.
You can check out our website at gameofmicrophones.com.
We're also on the Twitter at Podcastica and on the Facebook at facebook.com/Podcastica.
And be sure to check out the other first-class podcasts in our network at podcastica.com.
Next week, Game of Thrones, Season 5, Episode 7.
Get your cocks. No, I'm just kidding.
Cock talk. The Gift with hosts Grace, Karen, and David. And Cox.
David.
David's got a cock.
All right. That's our show.
Thanks for listening.
And when you plan to steal your niece away from a water garden, be sure you have a plan.
The dwarf lives until we find a cock merchant.